Villa have got three extremely press-resistant players, OK? Tielemans, McGinn and Rodgers are as good as anybody anywhere around at receiving the ball under pressure and then either turning a player or then playing off and then getting it back again. And that's a real danger for Man United in that 3-4-3 setup.
Manchester United have scored 8 goals in their last 2 games. They're unbeaten in 4, but on Sunday afternoon they go to one of the most informed teams in the world in Aston Villa, who've won 9 on the spin and 10 out their last 11. That is a 6th versus 3rd fixture. This is Tactics Exposed. I'm Will Pugh. That's SunSport's tactical guru, Dean Scoggins. As always, in this video, we will be answering tactical questions from you about the big game on Sunday. Dino, wonderful to see you again, mate. 2nd week in a row doing Aston Villa.
Yeah, you wait all that time for an Aston Villa episode and then 2 come along at once.
Like Birmingham buses.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And they are flying at the moment.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I had the misfortune of, or the fortune, I guess, it depends which way you look at it, of watching them thrash my beloved West Ham. Can you thrash someone 3-2?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that's exactly what happened, yeah. Big game on Sunday, though, Dino. Before we get into it, how do you see it going?
Yeah, I'm really excited by it. It's one of those that I think we've had a couple of weeks of fixtures where there's not been like a standout one. Yeah. And this week, this feels like a real one that could, with Man United scoring goals again, Villa banging it in from all areas, it feels like this one could go off. Absolutely,
mate. Right, let's go to question number 1. Thanks to everyone, by the way, for getting your questions in. As usual, don't forget to get involved in the comments on this video. Let us know what you think of what Dino has got to say. Obviously, subscribe to the channel as well. Let's have question number 1. Dino, will Manchester United play 4 at the back again? Obviously, that 4-4 thriller against Bournemouth last time out on the Monday night, that we covered on the last week's episode of Team Talk, actually. Dino, did you see what you expected, and what's the 4 at the back question all about?
Well, it's an interesting one because, again, obviously intimates that they've been doing it quite a lot. But what was interesting about the Bournemouth game was we saw a really, really adaptable Man United and a really exciting Man United going forward. And that was because they went for sort of a change-up in formation during the game. It was around about the 60th minute that they actually went properly 4 at the back. But actually, when I was researching and watching back again, even more interestingly, they were flicking between the 2 formations as they went. So if they can do that and switch between the 2 and 2 formations in one, then they've really got something on their hands. So I'll explain what they were doing so well. We've talked about it before with obviously this Amorim 3-4-3 here, right? Yeah. We know that now, or some people would call it a 3-4-2-1 because of the 2 players playing off the front. Yeah. But what they try to do and what they should be trying to do is overload. So then when they go forward, let's say they attack down one side, they'll push 2 players on there, the wing back pushes on, the midfielder pushes on, and then this centre back can come out and then they overload on this side, right? So that's the idea, that's the benefit of playing a 3-4-3. But what they've struggled to do, United, is transfer from attacking positions back into defensive ones and vice versa, and how they manipulate that formation. But on Monday night against Bournemouth, what we saw was Luke Shaw play much more like a centre-back. Diogo Dalot play on that side. We saw Lenny Yoro and Aidan Heaven. So Aidan Heaven came in as a centre-back and Lenny Yoro came in almost to make a back 4. And then Amad Diallo was nominally the wing-back on the formation, but he was coming in there to defend. Obviously, your two centre midfielders there. And then it became this 4-4-2. And it was really quite impressive because what that meant is that then when they attacked, obviously Amad Diallo can get forward, and they had Mbermo and Cunha pushing forward. Mason Mount pushed up, and Diogo Dalot was the extra one then who joined the attack. So he came and joined this attack to get that shape. And then, as we squeeze them up, we'll see there, that shape that I talk about all the time on tactics in an attacking sense is 3-2-5. Yeah. And they used it by adapting the 3-4-3 and 4-4-2 in between those 2 things. And I always go back to this Thomas Tuchel quote, which will be spoken about a lot with England over the summer. A formation is just a framework for then the team to work within, and that's what Tuchel says a lot. But United have really struggled, and it's looked like this very rigid 3-4-3, but then on Monday, even in the first half, it went back to in and out of a 4-4-2, 3-4-3.
So just describe then, Dino, because I've heard you talk, particularly about Arsenal, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, about how they sort of switch into a 4-4-2 at times during games as well, normally when they're pressing.
Yeah, that's that's an Arsenal press. Yeah, absolutely. But what Man United did very, very well was they overloaded Bournemouth in those areas, and so
In what areas? Sorry,
in the attacking areas. Right. So all of a sudden, Bournemouth, so they look so good, United, getting into attacking positions again. And then also, when you get into this attacking shape like this, and you know you've got a player out there, you're going to get somebody on the left side of a midfield or the left side of defence get dragged across. And so in this instance, it was for Bournemouth, it was the left side. And what happened then was Bruno Fernandes got himself into these areas here on the right-hand side, and Mbeumo gets right into the box, Ahmad gets right into the box, and all of a sudden, United were crashing the box with 5 players, and Bruno's feeding them from there. And we haven't seen enough of that. I mean, we go back to the Everton game where United had 70% possession and could not break Everton down. And Bruno is passing the ball sideways and backwards. In this game, he's feeding the ball into the box. He's picking the ball up in between the lines, because what United have done is freed up the fullbacks but still been secure here. So they end up with 3 at the back, but then they go into a defensive position. Dalot moves back in here. Yoro moves across. Amad Diallo doesn't have to come back and do as much defensive unit, but he did drop in front of him. The midfielders drop in. Mount works very hard and gets in there, and they got into a 4-4 defensive shape in that as well. So it was 3 at the back attacking and 4 at the back defending, which means they're overloading in both directions. If they can do that more consistently with that attacking lineup that they've got, it's really dangerous.
Well, one thing, I mean, that's kind of the point of the 3-4-3 system, isn't it? That you're able to be flexible within it, and it puts, as we've covered lots of times on Tactics Exposed and Team Talk, puts a lot of onus on the wing backs, and they sort of become the most important players in that team. One thing I will say though, Dino, they've scored 8 goals in 2 games. They've also conceded 5. So obviously some flaws in it. Well, what does Amorim have to do, or how does the 4 at the back, to go back to the question, how does that sort of impact how they're defending? Because in the last game it was quite bad.
Yeah, it was interesting. Then I think it was about the 63rd minute he makes the substitution against Bournemouth. Yeah. And then he brings on the centre-back Martinez, and then Luke Shaw goes to a genuine left-back position. And it was Aidan Heaven who was struggling a little bit in the first half defensively. On the ball, he's been fantastic. Let's cut him some slack, like 19 years old, and he did make an error for 1 or 2 goals. But, on the ball, he was very good. And I think that Amorim, bear in mind they're 3-2 down at this stage in that crazy game, he's thinking that we need to protect him a little bit. He brings on, an experienced Argentinian international. And then the other thing that happened was it meant that Luke Shaw could then attack. So Dalot was moved over to the other side, and then all of a sudden we saw Luke Shaw in a much more comfortable position. So he's pushed Cunha and Mbeumo. We've got Amad Diallo, and he brought Šeško on. Yeah. So they ended up with this really sort of attacking 4-2-4 shape. Not only that, he then gets Luke Shaw coming up the outside to join the attack, and again Bruno Fernandes is making meals in there. So it's like absolutely real gung-ho attacking shape, and yet he still had 4 at the back. So what was interesting for me was that for the first time, we've talked about it for ages and ages, how stubborn Amorim has been around this 3-4-3 formation. Fans have got really angry about it, and then in game he was able to switch it up. So that's a really, really positive sign for United in the next few weeks, months going forward, that if they can change in game, they've got a plan A and a plan B in this, and switching 2 formations in 1.
Yeah, absolutely, Dino. I like it. It's just sort of split formations, sort of due. I kind of understand what you're saying, and that is the point of the system. I think there will be some concerns among United fans about their sort of defensive frailties. Albeit, I know Bournemouth have been playing brilliantly this season, quite out of form going into that game, and the game before was Wolves. So to concede 5 to those,
they should have won. They should have won. It was a much improved performance.
Quite. Let's go to question number 2 then, Dino. Should Kobbie Mainoo start Free Kobbie Mainoo, I believe, was the T-shirt on display
Yeah.
in the week. Obviously, he's been out of form and out of favour, really. Hard to say which one he's been most of or which has been the most prevalent, but clearly an outstanding, talented midfielder. Ruben Amorim hasn't really fancied him, or he doesn't fit in the system. We've covered that on Tactics Exposed so far, but should he start?
Yeah, it's distances that there's been the thing for Amorim. So the distances in midfield has been a problem, and he hasn't so far wanted or favoured Kobbie Mainoo in travelling those large distances in the midfield.
When you say distances, mate, you mean ground covered?
Exactly,
or
yeah. So
players?
if we just reset them into that, 3-4-3 that everyone sees, you'd see here that you've got two midfield players and a huge amount of space.
Yep.
And that's been an issue, especially when we know that Bruno Fernandes goes off wandering and goes into all different areas. So if Bruno does go and join that attacking 3 to make it a 4, then you've got a midfielder here who's covering an absolutely enormous amount of space.
Yep.
And Amorim clearly hasn't fancied Kobbie Mainoo to do that job and cover those distances. And it's slightly unfair, I think, but Casemiro has done a very good defensive job, but we saw straight away in that Bournemouth game on Monday night the value of Kobbie Mainoo when he came on. Right. But again, perhaps that is down to the formation switch. Because if we just, let's move them into a 4-4-2 now, or a 4-2-3-1, and what you can see is that then you could have Bruno Fernandes here as the number 10.
Yep.
Sesko up front, maybe Mason Mount one side, Cunha the other, and then you're thinking, well, that's good because if your left back or right back bombs forward and then you form that 5-man attacking shape again, and then you're in that 3-2-5 that we talk about again. And that's then your two midfielders not having to cover as much ground. And not only that, you've got a Kobbie Mainoo in there who is capable of drifting past these players in midfield and firing those passes into feet, which we saw straight away against Bournemouth. There was a different dynamic to their attack with Kobbie Mainoo on that Casemiro doesn't bring. Should he start? I think a lot of that depends on if Amorim decides to go for it at the back at the beginning. You could end up with that very attacking front 5 and still have the protection of those two if you went that way.
But what do you think then, Dino? Do you think, obviously we sort of covered it, how he sets up in 3-4-3 and then shifts to that during the game, that 4-4-2. You'd be surprised, surely, to see him set up with a 4-4-2 from the off? Yeah,
I would be surprised, yeah. And I don't think he will. I think he'll... I would imagine he'll start with his favoured formation that they've been playing, and then he knows he's got that option as the Bournemouth game proved to go into it. But, they're playing against a really, really informed Aston Villa side, right. And Aston Villa will be looking for the little, chinks in the armour there of United and where they can play out. And the way that I've set that up there is a really good example of where you can get at United in transition, right? So I haven't touched that Villa formation yet, but the way that the United is set up, that space there and that space there is the ones where if Villa can hold their line here, win the ball back, that's where, and if you watched Monday's show, then you'll have seen that's the areas that Aston Villa will attack to try and go at United. So Villa start with wingers out there, Morgan Rogers probably, McGinn there possibly, and then Tielemans playing in here with that very strong box that Villa have there, which we referred to in Tactics Exposed.
Yep.
But what they then do when they win possession, Villa, is the centre forward goes on, and these guys go in here, and then the full-backs push on. Right. So then, again, you're thinking, is this his man or is this his man? There's indecision there for United in that shape of where they go. So I fancy them to play 3, but with a more defensive left wing back, if you like, so that Yoro moves across, if it's Heaven again, and then Luke Shaw, and then Dalot comes back in to make the 4. So it's a 3 at the back that becomes a 4 with a more defensive wing back.
So back to the question then, yes or no, before we move to question 3. Kobbie Mainoo, does he start?
I think he should start.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Right, let's move on then, Dino, to question number 3. How can Manchester United stop Morgan Rogers? As I said, I was at London Stadium last weekend to watch Morgan Rogers score twice, particularly particularly that screamer of a winner in the later stages. Really impressive. Everything good that Aston Villa do, or almost everything good that Aston Villa do, goes through Rodgers. They're always trying to find him. When he does get the ball, he looks dangerous. So how do Manchester United stop him?
Yeah, so for the benefit of those who haven't watched Monday's show, but
What is wrong with you?
where were you?
Is wrong
What's
with
going
you?
on? Go back and watch it after this. But yeah, we'll just set Villa up again as they play, and then we'll put United back into the generic 3-4-3 for a second, okay? So Villa 4 at the back, and then we talk about this box. It's not a box midfield like Chelsea do. It's a box with the 2 defenders. So they start like that, and what they then do is goad teams on. They want teams to press them up high and then bring them out. So the centre-backs will go right in here to try and receive the ball. The full-backs will come right out wide here, and then the 2 midfield players will maintain that box shape with those 2, and Tielemans is the flexible one. And then what they're wanting you to do is push on here, leaving someone isolated, not knowing which way to go. If they go that way, they can play in here or play in there. Then inevitably what happens is other teams will push their midfielders into this area here.
Yep.
So these 3 players very cleverly either go out to open up these spaces in here, or they come in to open up those spaces there, and then it's your 2 danger men on the ball.
Just quickly then, Dean, what they're opening up there, you talk about spaces, but they're actually passing lanes,
Yeah,
aren't they?
they're opening up those passing
To
lanes.
Rodgers.
Absolutely, yeah. So if this player, Kamara comes in here, and then Anana comes in here, and then you've got Tielemans operating this space, look at that. Look at what they then do. So this defence here is very, very unsure about whether they're pushing up. Again, is the left wing back going right up to the full back? Or is he thinking, I'm in trouble here? And then McGinn will go in here, Rodgers will go in there, and they'll try and manipulate from, it'll be Lindelof because Pau Torres is injured, either a bounce out there and in, or a direct one straight into here. And if they then get Morgan Rodgers turning in those areas, that's the danger. So how do United stop that? 2 ways of doing it, okay? One is having that very, very deep starting position, so don't go and press.
Yep.
Don't do it.
Yeah,
don't get goaded into it. Just leave them there.
You have the ball in your own penalty
Absolutely.
area.
And we have seen teams do that. Arsenal were in a very good shape at Villa Park, where what they did is they just sat a 3 there, like that. They sat a 3 there and said, we're not going to go in here and get ourselves in trouble. We're just going to try and block that pass there and block that pass there. And then the 2 midfielders behind it are like shadowing them.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you go that way, you know that that's been opened. This space here has been opened up. So this player comes in here to block that passing lane. So that Arsenal did that relatively well. So United, the first thing will be, do not force yourselves onto them. Do not go at them. They will pop it round you. They might concede a goal. They did it at West Ham, right? But the number of times that they get success going the other way. So then the other thing is, if you do get caught, and then you've got this Villa 3 coming at you in a central area, it's this 3-4-3 formation of Amorim again. We've talked about it time and time again, where the centre-backs have to jump out.
Yep.
They have to go out. They cannot just sit here and let Morgan Rodgers turn and run at you in this area, because that's where he's either going to bang one in the top corner or feed one to Wally Watkins running down the channel.
I can't remember what game it was, Dino. It might have been the Newcastle Man United game where Luke Shaw done that tracking, the jumping out with great effect, and he used lots of times.
It was the Newcastle game. It was also the Chelsea game at Old Trafford where it was De Ligt and Shaw, and they go right out. And so they could do that. And what they could do with Morgan Rodgers, if they set up in this shape, United, they could say, right, well, the right wing back, or the right centre-back, perhaps that's the way to go it, Lenny Yoro, just says, I'm doing a man-marking job on him. So whenever Villa have got the ball, that means you can push your wing-back up here, you can go across in there and you say, right, he's mine.
Yeah.
And all right, the shape doesn't look great. You then move across slightly, and then you bring your left wing back in, so you've still got your cover man there, but you push your centre-back right out to jump out on him. And look, if you foul him on the halfway line or you push him back the other way, you've just got to stop him turning in those areas. And, Villa have got 3 extremely press-resistant players, OK? Tielemans, McGinn and Rodgers are as good as anybody anywhere around at receiving the ball under pressure and then either turning a player or then playing off and then getting it back again. And that's a real danger for Man United in that 3-4-3 setup.
And as we've seen, Dean, as well, and as we saw on Sunday, Aston Villa and Unai Emery getting huge praise for their in-game management, the subs they bring off the bench, which the attacking players who can have an impact on the game.
Absolutely, and Buendia has been remarkable for Villa this season. He's come on and impacted games every time he's come on. Tottenham Stadium, London Stadium, it's been really, really quality. And so Villa adapt that shape by moving Tielemans back into a midfield 2, moving Morgan Rogers in to be the 10, and then you bring on Emi Buendia to play in a different way that Rogers is, and then that creates a problem for that setup for that centre-back. So it could be a little bit of cat and mouse in this, where are United 3 at the back? Are they 4 at the back? Do Villa start? Well, Villa will start by playing out, but if they don't get joy that way, they'll adapt it in something different. They'll go direct, and then they'll have people flooding forward to play off the front man. So, and that might mean United start with a 3 and then go to a 4. So could be a real tactical game of chess, this one.
Absolutely, mate. And don't forget, with Betfair's Safe Sub, your bet isn't over if the player you've backed gets subbed off, because your bet simply rolls over onto the player coming on. So if you've had Morgan Rogers to score, for example, and for a change it's not quite working out for him, he gets hauled off, Emi Buendia comes on and smashes one into the back of the net, well, you still get paid out. Dino, I'm looking forward to this one. I enjoyed watching Aston Villa, obviously through gritted teeth, beating my team last week, but they're very, very, very impressive. And I think what was most sort of, I was in awe of them is how effective they are. They on the whole, didn't necessarily look like the best football team as the sort of game has been on. But when they get their opportunities, they strike. This has got goals written all over it.
Yeah, it really has, because they play. Emery, this isn't an accident. This has been coming for a long time. Unai Emery is one of the best tactical brains there is, and he drums into the players what he wants for them, and it's repetition, and it's keep doing it, and when we're now seeing it bear fruit. And look, they are scoring a lot of goals from outside the area, and people are saying it can't continue. Well, maybe it can. If you keep giving it. It can. Yeah. If Morgan Rogers, very good. I enjoyed that. But with Morgan Rogers, you give him this space on the edge of the box, he's going to smack it in the top corner, and then if United do back off him, he'll shoot. If they push up on him, then you get Ollie Watkins running in behind. So, there's more than one way to win a football match.
Absolutely. Not an easy team to defend against, are they? Look, thank you very much for watching this episode of Tactics Exposed Team Talk with me and Dino. We will be back on Monday with Tactics Exposed, probably examining this very game here, unless it's a total 0-0 drab fest, but I can't see that happening. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think of what Dino's had to say in the comments. Like this video and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you Monday.